We all have stories. Stories inspired by culture, competition, creativity. Stories show our humanity. They inspire us to greatness and remind us to be humble. Stories connect us to our communities and the rest of the world. We are the Chata people, and these are our stories. See and share them at togetherwe'remore.com.
People don't know what it is to be champions. Oklahoma invented it.
Welcome to Through the Keyhole, an Oklahoma football podcast. I'm your host this week, Peyton Guthrie. The brave leader, Brady, is still out gallivanting across the globe, but we are here holding it down in Oklahoma and afar. Feel a little far over there. But we got Matt Burton and Alan Kinney helping me lock it down, load it down on this offseason show that we've got for you guys today. And we're also live on YouTube, so if you want to check us out on YouTube as well while we are recording, every once in a while we go live for the public over on our YouTube channel Through the Keyhole. But normally this will be reserved for our Patreon members. If you want to be able to reply and respond to us while we're recording, go check us out on patreon.com/Through the Keyhole. Before I get started off, I want to say thank you so much to our title sponsor, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. You just saw the commercial kick off the whole podcast, and then also big shout out to Kaizen Performance over there in the Norman Moore area, keeping us in shape, keeping us ready to go. And if you've been following Brady on the socials, getting him looking kind of good, right? I mean, I know that's a Herculean effort to kind of get that shaped in there, but we got it on that side of it. But let's jump into it. Matt, Alan, thank you for joining, as you guys always effort to do. Matt, how's it going on?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Excited to talk some OU football, man. There's been a lot of All-Star break talk, NBA stuff, a lot of that going on. A lot of OU hoops, a lot of college hoops. So I'm excited to kind of dip our toes back in to OU football.
Yeah, some actually OU football stuff to talk about this this week. I don't have to try to drag up a bunch of stuff. We actually have some actionable items to talk about if I want to get into my corporate speak. Alan, I think that's a fresh haircut. Looking pretty good. How's it going?
Muted.
And you're muted. Oh, no. Here we go. Wait for it.
Well, I just informed you guys. Yeah, I got a fresh trim last week. Feeling good. Lots going on in college football, kinda. I guess a lot of news for the Sooners at least. Of course, that pretty much all broke like 10 minutes after we stopped recording our last show. So plenty to talk about from last week, right?
Yeah, for sure, and that's generally how it goes. In a weekly show, we weren't going to do a breaking show for a defensive back coach being hired. We weren't going to do a special show for just DeMarco Murray or a special show for the Combine. We decided to save it all for now. And I guess tomorrow we'll have a bunch of new stuff to talk about next week. We'll be a week behind for the offseason. But let's jump straight into this. Before we go to the happy trails, we want to say welcome. I guess reportedly, still I couldn't find the actual this has happened, but I've seen a lot of reportedly will happen, this is going to happen things. But it seems the University of Oklahoma football staff, coaching staff, has a new addition with Lamar Morgan from Michigan joining Oklahoma. Before he was at Michigan, he was at ULM and University of Louisiana at Lafayette. The Cajuns, right? The Fighting Cajuns?
Raging Cajuns, yes.
Raging Cajuns, yeah, I forgot. On that side. Got some strong SEC ties from that area, as well as I believe he was at Vanderbilt for a year. So some strong SEC stuff on that side. Alan, is there anything from this new hire that sticks out to you? I mean, I have one thing immediately, but I want to see, does anything stick out to you right now based on Lamar's previous stops and maybe how this process has played out?
Nothing that sticks out in terms of, previous stops or anything like that. I think the bigger kind of surprise here is there's not like a clear through line from Lamar Morgan to Oklahoma's coaching staff. Normally when you have an opening in your staff like this, the first thing that anybody points to is, okay, well, who does the head coach know, or who has ties to the program, that type of thing. You don't see any of that here. This is, clearly a hire based on something about Morgan's background, or something about the Michigan scheme, whatever that may be, that clearly appealed to the Sooners. So that to me is the big takeaway here.
Yeah, that was something that really stuck out to me, was the idea of like, well, where did this guy come from? Everyone was saying, oh, it's going to be this former player. It's going to be this guy who used to coach for somebody. And Lamar totally just comes out of the blue. It's not anyone I saw on a list in any way, shape, or form. But he was here, seems to have done good at Michigan, and in Oklahoma being able to benefit from Michigan's, program instability at the moment, hiring the new coach, losing a coach, hiring a new coach. There's going to be some shakeup. It seems Oklahoma was able to pick up and benefit from that. Matt, what do you think about Lamar in this SEC style recruiting? He's got some skins in the wall in that area on the lower level stuff, especially in the Louisiana area.
Yeah, Louisiana, never a bad area to have some good ties into when it comes to college football players. I know that for a fact. But as far as defensive hires go, I don't think I have any, worry that Brent would find the right guy for what he wants to do. The offensive end, it's still up in the air, right? But as far as defensive hires go, listen, the worst one's probably Ted Roof, and I think we can all agree that Ted Roof was kind of a defensive coordinator just in name only. I don't think he really had the defensive coordinator duties, if you will, other than standing up at the podium after the game answering questions. That's really what it felt like. But I didn't think Zach Alley was that bad of a hire, and as far as all the other ones, I think Brent's track record at OU, as far as defensive hires, I think you can say it went pretty well. I mean, the guy who Lamar Morgan is replacing just got hired by the Buffalo Bills, so it's like it's got a pretty good track record on that side. I'll just trust Brent on the defensive side.
Yeah, you see some stuff here like from his previous stops. I'm reading from his Michigan bio because he's not quite famous enough to have Wikipedia, but the Michigan bio here, taking defenses in the during the Raging Cajun stop, going from 55th the passing yards allowed, 110th the pass efficiency defense, 105th in scoring, and 97th in total defense. That's not good. Up to 6th, 2nd, 31st, and 33rd, respectively, in those 4 years he was there. And each 4 years having double-digit turnovers, achieved on that side. So it seems to be a coach that's maybe particularly good at putting defensive backs in position to cause some havoc, or at least coaching them up to, if a ball's in the air, get a hand on it, pass, break up a pass, things of that side, which was something I will say at the University of Oklahoma last year, the defensive side of it, the havoc was coming pretty much exclusively from the front seven, and your back four, back five was having some issues on that side. So this could be a good change for Oklahoma to actually have some cornerbacks, defensive backs, safeties be a little more active in the passing game, passing defense when it comes to the havoc side of it. I mean, Alan, do you see anything? Is there anything coming from your mind thinking about the 2025 football season from the Oklahoma's secondary specifically that you think or we'd like to see increase talent-wise, skill-wise, stats-wise on that sticks out to you?
Oh, I just completing more interceptions, completing the full process of actually, taking the ball away, for me would be, I guess if I was going to say there's something they need to improve on, but by and large, I felt like that entire unit played really well last year. It was kind of like, I think for Jay Valai, it was one of those kinds of like proof points, for him as a coach, just looking at, the youth in the room, how they performed. I never really, when it comes to things like how good is this position coach, I'm always kind of ambivalent about how, where, like, for example, does the defensive scheme end and where do their contributions start? you know. So I mean, I'm loath to say like, oh, well, clearly he did a great job coaching up Michigan's corners or not. But I mean, Michigan's been one of the better defensive teams in the country for a while now, and just from that culture, that pedigree alone, seems like a pretty good place to be pulling a new position coach from.
And then Matt, same thing on your side. You know, we're watching this, and you know, we do this once a week, maybe twice a week. You gotta pump this content out every single day. And so I do not, you know, wish that upon myself, to be honest with you. But what do you think that you would want to see an improvement? What's like a point of area of improvement that you'd want to see the Oklahoma defensive backs that they take on for 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I think the same as Allen, man. Interceptions would be really nice. They went through, was it the first 5 games without getting an interception? And even then, like I know it's probably not, you know, outside of some pick sixes or some really long returns for Eli Bowen. I mean, it was Peyton Bowen, it was Robert Spears Jennings, it was some of the safeties there doing that. Did Cortland Guillory record an interception this year? I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't think so. Jacoby Johnson had that one in the Missouri game where it was just like he played it absolutely perfectly. So, I mean, you know, I think just as far as the interceptions go, would love to see that number come up. But I feel like there's a good baseline to work with, because I think as far as just like covering guys, you know, making sure nothing's open, you know, I feel like there's a good baseline there with Cortland Guillory and Eli Bowen of just like, hey, we're going to be sound, be technical, and then especially Cortland's side, be a little bit physical. Would like to see, like Alan said, get some interceptions on the board for the corner.
Yeah, I think Guillory had like he tied for the team lead in passes broken up with 7. But he didn't have an interception. Now I think though he still played excellent defense for the most part. But it's just one of those small things. Like, yeah, let's go how you go from like good to great type stuff. You know?
Yeah, I guess there's one thing in which I would love to see improvement from the defensive back unit for the 2026 season that Lamar actually can't do anything about. Would be, could Oklahoma get someone above 6 foot out there? But what are you going to do on that side? But no, I mean, generally Oklahoma has been playing a very tight coverage since Brent Venables has been back, right? They are a tough-nosed defensive back unit. They're going to get called for a lot of pass interferences on that side. I think that's something I would like to see mainly tied up is maybe just clean up a little bit of technique side on when you can grab somebody versus when you can't, versus when you can do something, you know, because relying on turnover numbers being high or low, to me, I think it's a bit of a fool's game because it's just so difficult to predict that stuff and so difficult how to produce it. And so much of that stuff is really produced by the front seven, in my personal opinion, you know, getting the quarterback's process sped up to a point in time to where defensive back can capitalize on it. It's what happens when the defensive line isn't causing a quarterback to get that ball out in 3 seconds. Can these corners hold on? And we saw when teams were able to slow down Oklahoma's pass rush, you know, the final game of the year is a pretty good example. In the back half of that, once Alabama kind of figured out how to slow them down a little bit, things started opening up for them in a way that the cornerbacks weren't able to capitalize on or hold up on that side. So if your defense is too one-sided, and I would say last year Oklahoma was extremely strong on the defensive line. I don't think anybody would argue that. Once that strength got equalized somewhat, the defensive backs kind of got into trouble from now and then on that side. So that was something I would like to figure out, is how to play that tighter coverage and how to hold up. But I mean, you're trying to cover a bunch of NFL wide receivers week to week in the SEC, and it's tough. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you on that side. And then moving on, OU, great player, great ambassador for the program. Former Dallas Cowboy. What was he? Offensive Player of the Year one year, I think, in the NFL. Mm-hmm. DeMarco Murray rides off into the sunset, joins the Kansas City Chiefs to be their new running backs coach. after 3 straight years of trying to leave Norman, I think, based on interviews and rumors of where he may go. So that there are some issues on that side. But Matt, what's your thoughts about Murray now leaving the program, joining the NFL? It's great to me. It's personally great when you see coaches going on NFL. It means you've done something right. It's the same thing when you see players get drafted and all that sort of stuff. It means you are cultivating talent either on the staff or on the roster. But what's going to really stick out to you about DeMarco Murray?
Man, one, I think this is generally how I feel about anybody going from specifically college football to the NFL. Is good for you, because I feel like you get you get a set schedule, you get way more off time, you don't have to recruit, you don't have to be busy doing that. So generally just like, I don't know, almost like a quality of life way. It's like, hey, more power to you for that. And then hitching your wagon to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes is historically not a bad idea if you're trying to like win a Super Bowl, with what those two have done in Kansas City. So, that I don't know. It kind of felt like time. This was kind of happening every offseason where, DeMarco is, Ohio State. It's really close with him going to Ohio State. It's Notre Dame. It's, Penn State, I think, threw their hat in the ring one year. It just like, it's in the Raiders, I think when Chip Kelly was there before the season, I think the Raiders, threw their name in the hat. So, the NFL has always kind of been there too. So I don't blame DeMarco one bit. Honestly, I don't think I have any ill will towards him. It's going to be like, hey, obviously you can always look back on the player DeMarco at OU with fond memories. But the coaching tenure, you can kind of look back like, there were some hits, but realistically there were kind of some misses too, and just obviously in some of the worst offenses that OU's had too. So like, I don't know how much I really blame him for 2024. Right, that was just kind of it was just all bad from the top down. But especially when it comes to like recruiting out of high school, like some of the recruits he had out of high school, they didn't really pan out. I mean, for goodness sakes, Taylor Tatum is in the safeties room now at Michigan. He was the number 1 running back prospect coming out of high school. So I don't know. It will be looked back at it as a confusing time in the running back room when DeMarco was here.
And then, Alan, I do want to address some of that stuff. So OU fans are a fickle bunch, myself included. You're going to love them when they're good. You're going to hate them when they're bad. That's how college football works, right? You get the roses and you get the other side of it when it's not working out. But I remember you had on a national podcaster, and I cannot remember his name, basically saying like the last thing you ever want is for a random student to know a coordinator's name. And we're talking about like a position coach. Now, obviously, DeMarco Murray is famous. There's a difference on that side of it. But do you think the strife of the day-to-day OU fan was earned by the production or non-production from DeMarco Murray's unit during his time at Oklahoma?
Well, let's face it, the running game hasn't been great. It's been at best solid, right? But I mean, you've had some really bad years. This year in particular was bad. So like at the end of the day, he's the one with his name, on the door, running backs coach. There's no, we can sit here and say, oh, well, the problem was the offensive line, or the problem was that, the passing game couldn't get, they're able to stack the box, yada, 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 on down the line. But it always felt still, though, like there was just something missing about that unit. The stuff about like, Murray being too hard on players, or being too demanding, or putting too much stock in stuff like, say, I don't know, pass blocking. I mean, without being there, how the hell do I know? But I just can't look at the output from OU's backfield the last few years and think that the questions that people had about about Murray's ability to develop and get his guys to execute week in and week out. I mean, they seem warranted. The strange part is that now he's going to coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, so we have these questions, but apparently, Andy Reid doesn't. So, what do you say to that? I don't know. I would say, I think that if Murray's coaching style is as no nonsense as has been kind of portrayed, he probably is better off coaching in the NFL. But again, what do I know?
Yeah, and that's something too where, again, I was in college when DeMarco Murray was really there, so I wasn't really 100% keeping track of everything. At college at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, not in college in Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma. So I was more like, I'd watch him run the football, when Oklahoma played. I wasn't as on the pulse keeping up with that stuff, but he always seemed to carry himself with a certain amount of professionalism, even when he was in college, even when he was playing on that side of it. You didn't hear too much of him doing too many knucklehead stuff. Unless I drastically need to be corrected, do that in the comments on that side. I don't remember him being too much of a headache or anything like that. Seems someone who carried himself with a certain level of professionalism that honestly you don't see from college level players often, on this side of it. And the stuff where he would rumored to have benched Tyree Walker for not getting in the cold tub as often as he should. And, stuff like that, to where it's, okay, how much of this stuff is just rumors because people are upset that the running game isn't working out the way that we want it to? You know how college fandom is. You start trying to find the boogeyman. You start trying to find an answer to the problems on that side of it. And I think there's something on coaches, especially in college, as they elevate to NFL, or NFL coaches as they elevate down. On the coaching side, you're probably looking more about process, more about how you're doing something, more and why you're doing something, and the results become somewhat independent from that process, right? And obviously DeMarco's doing something from the NFL to reach out to him and say, yeah, we want this guy. It's not like it's not like he had hand the ball off to Adrian Peterson 30 times a game. Congrats, come to the NFL. There's more to it on that side that he handles himself. That probably isn't fully unlocked in college football, right? College football is, I don't want to say it this way, but I don't know a different way of saying it. College football at times is a simpler game than NFL. There's a certain amount of time you can be there. There are restrictions of what you can and can't do that just aren't necessarily there on NFL. It's not a full-time job. That I think, like you said, DeMarco may do better on that side. But Matt, do you have any? I guess Matt and Alan, open floor. What's the best memory of DeMarco Murray you're going to have, player or coach?
Oh boy, coach. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll go there. I think there are a lot more highs as a player. We'll go with his debut, right? I mean, 5 touchdowns. Was it North Texas? Is that who they played?
I believe so, yeah.
I was about to say, this is where I'd really need Brady here on this one to tell me the exact score, the exact date, and the exact opponent they were playing. But yeah, we'll go with his debut. 5 touchdowns as a freshman. You can't beat that.
Yeah, 2007 Red River Shootout. Murray had a explosive touchdown, 50+ yards in the second half that kind of turned the tide. Really, used favor there. And was kind of one of those moments too where he had all the touchdowns in that opening game, but you were still kind of waiting for him to break out in a big spot, and he did it there. And that one, to me, that stands out.
Was that one where he kind of hurdled somebody, or someone was like on the ground already, but it wasn't a full hurdle, but he jumped over. That's awesome.
Yeah. Fun fact: I was sitting next to Adrian Peterson's mom during that game. So in the Cotton Bowl. So yes.
Wonderful lady. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
I think for me, one of the funnest moments, and again, total rumor to Rome, because this is how funny to me how stuff shifts around, stuff like that. He's done some amazing stuff, playing, the stuff that he's done on the field, phenomenal. But I think the thing that really, really sticks out to me, and this is just how my brain works, is he became like this OU fans champion during the Lincoln Riley exit, where there's the rumor where like
Yeah.
Lincoln wanted to talk to the team, and he was like, "No, you can't come in here. You left." And everyone's like, "Yeah, DeMarco." And like 3 years later, everyone's like, "Get him out." But it just shows like how the full spectrum of a fan base towards a position coach can happen very quickly, even for a former great. On that side, it's something kind of sticks out to me. And I will say, according to Kansas City Chiefs on SI, written by who wrote this? Zach Gilbert. I guess Chiefs fan base aren't really necessarily excited about this hire, but I guess I have to see how it works out on that side. But what are you going to do?
If an NFL fan knows who your position coach is,
Running backs
that's
coaches.
real bad. Like that's I'm not that does not worry me in the least, man. Chiefs fan, like give me a break.
Yeah, they can't even keep their team. They're in a different Kansas City now. On that side of it, to move on to continue this trend of moving on to the NFL. The NFL Combine invitee list has gone out. Oklahoma lands 10 players. 10 former players are now going to Combine. I did not look up where that ranks in schools. My assumption is it's decently high, usually double digits.
I think it's like third.
Tied fourth or tied third, I think.
Third, perfect. Led by Deion Burks, Kanik, everyone, if you've seen the list, got 10 people in there. Majority, aka 8 of the 10 on defense, I think. 7 of the 10 on defense, really leading the way in there. Sadly, Owen Heineke is on that list because he's not going to more. I do not see how he's going to get it at this point in time. Start running the 40s, kid. Start bench pressing. Hopefully, you've already been doing that. Alan, you had an interesting article, a good article on keyholesports.com, part of your weekly, about what does the combine show retroactively to the talent on hand, and then potentially what that means moving forward for a program. What are your thoughts on Oklahoma putting 10 into the combine? Because not too long ago, if you remember, Oklahoma had 11 off that 2001 team, and then they sucked.
Yeah, 2021, right?
Yeah, 21. Yeah, sorry. And then they totally sucked. Different reasons for all that. A lot of transfers transferring out happened on that side to achieve that goal. But what do you think about these 10 players going, and what do you think that means for Oklahoma as a program, moving forward into these next steps of the Brent Venables era?
Yeah, I mean, I was really following up on something that I wrote about last year, which was that the NFL wasn't giving Oklahoma's roster particularly high marks based on the fact that I believe it was 2 years in a row, only 3 Sooners had been invited to the Combine. For a program like Oklahoma, that's not good, right? But it also was kind of the players who were coming, who were eligible for, inclusion in the NFL Combine pool, right? They were either players who had, been in one those final recruiting classes from Lincoln Riley, or they had transferred in. So it felt to me like more of a commentary on the roster that Venables was trying to build up, as opposed to a final kind of verdict on it. Now that the one of the things that gave me some optimism going forward about the program was that I did feel like there were a number of players on the roster last year who would end up being in this pool, and now we're seeing that come to fruition. So, you keep in mind too, you probably had a couple guys there, Satania or Mateer, Kip Lewis, who, had they opted to go to the NFL, probably would have been, received in combine invites as well. So put all that together, and you feel better about just the state of the roster in my mind. Now, again, the way it used to be with OU, it was all offense. Now it's all defense. That's a problem, or that's a commentary, I guess, on maybe where there's still a lot of work left to do for the Sooners. But you still, sending more guys to the NFL is better than sending fewer.
Yeah, that's something that you want to see. You want to see the pipeline of recruited to invited to the combine / drafted. Now, that shows, in my personal opinion, the process, the talent development of a program, how it's taking guys from high school and turning them into NFL prospects. Along that way, you're hoping you're winning a lot of football games. That's been kind of an up and down for Oklahoma the last few years, but this is at least showing that there is something in the water in Norman that's allowing guys to go from high school to the NFL. Now, Matt, there's two players who seem to immediately have saved their NFL prospects, right? You've got Marvin Jones Jr. and Kendall Daniels, who I think might get drafted. I would put them more heavily into the maybe than for sure's, and then more in the maybes than the undrafted. So they're kind of in the in-between phase at this point in time. But Marvin Jones Jr. and Kendall Daniels going from for sure won't get drafted to, hey, look at this now. I have a combine invite. Here we go. Based off of 1 year at Oklahoma. Do you think Oklahoma, especially on the defensive side, can have something of a come here, rebuild your reputation, rebuild your ability to play at high level, and then you can further your career at that next level in the NFL? Do you think that's a decent selling point for Oklahoma? Nagy, Nagy, I'm drunk right now, off my Coke Zero, to pitch in to portal players?
I think so. I will say I don't think you want like a full team of that, right? I don't think OU's in that spot. But like a here and there, like, hey, like these two guys, yeah, you guys can come here, kind of rehab. It's the Nick Saban coach's rehab that he had, but instead it's Brent Venables' defensive player rehab is what it could be like. But I think Kendall Daniels will get drafted. I think, especially if he tests well too, teams are going to see like, oh, this guy's 6'5", 240. We can fix him. Like, we can fix him. We'll find a spot for this guy, or something like that. Especially with the year that he had a really good season. But yeah, no, I do have the full list of combine invites for school. OU is tied for 4th. A&M is first with 13. Alabama solo second with 12. Then LSU and Ohio State had 11, and then OU, Miami, and Georgia are tied 4th with 10 apiece. So. Good company to keep there. You love that, like Alan said. I mean, you're never going to complain about having X amount of guys drafted and X amount of guys invited to the combine too. So, looking forward to it. Hope the best for all these guys, and we'll see. See, our guy Harry says, any Owen Heineke update? I don't think so. I think it's just. I mean, I think the further it goes on,
I really don't see how it's going to work out for him.
I was about to say the longer it goes on, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're able to get him from a very famous OU alum judge, who has some biblical reference, he can point towards to get him another year. I would go ahead and say that goes on that side. Does anybody stand out to you guys of these draft combine invites have really rocketed up any sort of, like, in your opinion, draft boards or anything on that side that make you think, hey, if this guy has a good showing, he can sneak into the first round, or he can sneak into from undrafted to drafted? Is there anything off the top of your mind? And we'll start with you, Matt. Any player on this list that has you kind of thinking, oh, this is someone who's really going to either stabilize or solidify their standing, like a certain defensive end, or someone OU fans may think, oh, he actually was really good, like a certain wide receiver, but he just maybe not being able to show it. Is there anybody on here who on this list makes you think, oh, this is a riser for Oklahoma?
Yeah, I don't know about first round. I don't think I'll go there, but I think Grayson Halton's going to get drafted a lot higher than like the casual OU fan would think. But they're going to be like, oh, yeah, okay. And he was kind of like, we were all excited about Jaden Jackson and David Stone, and this Grayson Halton guy's getting drafted a lot. But I think his Senior Bowl stuff, like, I heard nothing but good things come out of the Senior Bowl for him. So I think if he goes and tests well at the combine too, I mean, who doesn't love a interior pass rusher, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the NFL teams love that. I mean, anybody does, but I mean, especially that with him being like around 295 too. Like, I mean, that's what you want. So Grayson Halton, I think, is for sure riser in this one. Also think, and again, I don't think that these guys get drafted very high. So like it's unless you're like, Creed Humphrey, but I think Fabechi Wiwu could get drafted as a center. Just because I think he was at the East-West Shrine Bowl, I think, with Kanik, but they had him snap a lot there. I was reading. So interesting for him only playing 2 games in college at center because he absolutely had to. But they were both in big time, like must-win games, and he played pretty well. Like, I don't know, I could see him, getting drafted as a center, and some teams being like, hey, we'll kind of buy into what those last 2 games were.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense for him for his blocking style. He had more of that catch style. He doesn't somebody who's like necessarily blowing off the ball. So I think in the center that would probably translate, because it's not like you're snapping and then you're immediately like going upfield that side. You're snapping, having to set and catch. So it makes more sense that NFL teams at least would look at that technique and think, let's try him there. I think that there's a fit there on that side of it. Alan, anybody on this list that makes you think OU fans will go have maybe a different framing of their mind after the draft or during this draft process?
Oh, well, like you look at Deion Burks, for example, and I think that some people would say that his production in the long run didn't really live up to the hype. And I would agree at OU. And I couldn't argue that. However, the NFL is telling you that this is a talented receiver. That makes me almost a little bit more concerned about John Mateer, in all honesty, but we'll cross that bridge later. Wiwu is another one like that. That's kind of one of those ones where it's like, Bill Bedenbaugh. I know that there are some people who think that he's lost his fastball, but I mean, you're turning a guy who was a walk-on at North Texas into, a combine invite. That's pretty good work, handiwork on his part, or development work. The funniest one to me is Kanik. I mean, he has 1 season as a tight end, and like, let's be real. He's a slot. He's a big slot. He's not a true tight end. There's a potential. You can see like an opening for him in the NFL, given his skill set, so long as he's not being asked to be, like a down in, down out dual tight end, inline tight end. That one's an interesting story, more so than like, someone whose opinion necessarily changed. I think fans' opinions will change on him.
Yeah, there's a interesting thing about how things trick. There's always this lie of like how things trickle down or whatever. In college football and football, you see actually things coming up from the bottom to the top. And if Kanik is able to make a team, that means in my mind, like, oh, somebody in the NFL turned on tape from Oklahoma circa 2012 to 2017, where they had, the fullbacks and the H-backs, sort of stuff like there, where it's like, oh, he'd be perfect for that. I had some people like, oh, he'd be a great H-back, fullback type thing. I was like, you've never watched football before. NFL don't use fullbacks that way. They use them to smash into other people. He's not good at that. But I do think you're right. In my mind, his ceiling is this gadget / special teams guy.
Special
run down
teams
there,
is another,
go get it done. He can be a gunner on there, like a big gunner, on the punt return stuff. He's plenty fast, can get down there, hit a guy. I'm not for sure you're saying he's wide receiver number 4, or something like that. Right. He has some football ability to where you could do some interesting stuff with him. And maybe teams like the Rams or the Niners or somebody who uses a lot of motion and movement would be kind of interesting. But I just don't think he has the size to be anything other than he gets drafted. I mean, he makes an undrafted team and scout teams like that and go that way. Because, we had OU just put another guy in the draft at wide receiver who was undersized and was a much better wide receiver in Drake Stoops. And, he couldn't hang on that side of it because there's certain physical stuff that either you don't or you do have. Kanik's fast enough. He's just not big or tall enough for all the rest of it that has gone that side of it. I do think, to me, I'm going to pick an easier one. I think R. Mason gets into the first round. I think he's somebody that OU can like put a pin on and say, boom, that is development of a capital D. We got him. We made him strong. this is what's going on right there. Like boom, boom, boom. And it's always really funny to me to see the NFL scout Twitter guys being like, man, someone watched the film on this guy. When all the college football people were like, oh, you mean the guy who was really good? Had 5 sacks a game every time he stepped on the field? Wow, crazy. And then I think Dominic Williams, who was somewhat quiet in his tenure at Oklahoma, I think that's somebody who will do pretty well on that side. Oklahoma had the luxury of having 4 very, very strong defensive tackles on the same roster, which was very beneficial for me as a football fan. But I do think he's someone who'll go in there, get drafted, and make a good rotation for himself on that side. So good all around. Alan, I will echo your Deion Burks statements on that side of it. I will then also say maybe a secret hidden tip. If you go check it out next week, I'll be posting the John Mateer every single snap, every single passing attempt breakdown, starting with the first game, in why Elijah Thomas, right, isn't quite getting on the field. This offense is a lot more than run a 10-yard stop, run a post. I mean, these guys there's tons of rub routes, tons of pick routes, tons of motion, stuff like that, in which if you don't know how to do that, then guys don't get open because you didn't run the thing. And you've got a lot of Deion Burks running wide open and free. Every other play.
It's rough.
Missing opportunities. Maybe it gets figured out on that side of it, in 2026.
Yeah. Just to add on R. Mason Thomas too. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was a late take in Venables' first class. I mean, I think his other offers were like Iowa State. I mean, 3-star. I mean, that is the story that, Brent Venables was kind of telling from the beginning, is I can see these guys, I can develop them, bring them in. I mean, that's, pitch perfect for how that whole narrative part of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to bring up his okay. So on 24/7, his high school recruiting, his high school evaluation via 24/7 was a 4th to 7th round pick. So at least they got it right. He probably will be a pick on that side. And I can't see his other reports, but I do remember him being I bet if I go to his high school page real quick.
Yeah, no, I think he was committed to Iowa State, wasn't he?
I think he was, and like a late flip.
I think he was. Yeah, they flipped him. Yeah. So yeah, that is one that you have to go through. He did have some offers, Miami, Kentucky, South Carolina, but if you put those on there, yeah, he really did not have that many offers at all. He had he had 5 offers. That's crazy to think about where he turned on that. And then, next year Oklahoma will have another guy with Tyler and say, boom, there's another dude. We can take a 3-star guy. We can turn him into a big time player. I don't think he'll be a first-round draft pick, but it's like we can turn you into an NFL player if you come down here and trust his process. But good job on the defensive coach for Oklahoma. I guess we'll move on to the rest of college football. We're kind of trolling here. Texas cancels its non-con with Arizona State, and then there's also rumors of Alabama canceling non-cons with the Ohio State. Something I thought was very, very funny. There's what Paul was Feinbaum was talking about. Hey, I'm hearing rumors. DeBoer's on shaky ground. They do not want to play that game, which again it's kind of interesting. It's like, oh, if you lose one game, you get fired. Then what does that mean? That if anything boils down to if you lose one game, you get fired. That means that dude should be fired before that. If here's the outcome of this one game. But something that's very funny. I was looking at future schedules. Alabama is talking about canceling, potentially rumored, inside sources, canceling the Ohio State football game. And I saw on their future list, there's another OSU game in which they have zero interest in canceling with Oklahoma State. So I found that funny on my side to think about that. But Matt, we've talked about this a little bit. We'll continue to talk about this. This keeps happening. The SEC seems to be making a lot of the non-cons much, much easier across the board for its teams. Right? These teams are being allowed to do this. They're moving into a 9-game schedule, which if we saw Red Dirt Sport on Twitter this past week, fighting the good fight of saying 99% of these SEC teams would drag themselves across broken glass to avoid these schedules. The SEC teams will have to play year in and year out now. playing Iowa and Northwestern and Michigan State and all these teams, like that's awesome compared to what SEC teams have to deal with week to week on that side of it. But the process of that means we're losing some marquee non-con games. Is there anything to this that is, I guess, bad for the sport? Is it just the future? Is this more signaling that the SEC is going to kind of create their own? I guess they have their own league, but their own league, their own thing. They talked about adopting some recruiting and some portal policy that's like conference wide. Do you think this is more signaling of a further fracturing in college football, or more of this is what the playoff has told us they'll want? It's about wins and losses. That's it. I mean, walk me through what you think about how teams are reacting to this new world they find themselves in.
Yeah, I think this is driven home even more. Now, again, Indiana this year went undefeated, so yeah, they're doing both. Right? They're winning games, right? They're doing what they're supposed to do. But Indiana's non-conference this year was Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State, and it was not held against them because hey, they won games in conference and it's all good. They beat Oregon. They beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. So I don't know. I feel like Indiana kind of messed it up for everybody because it's like, well, okay, we can have a good team. We could not play anybody in non-conference. We can play our 9 conference games, and when those, we're good. It doesn't make us any less of a team, obviously, because Indiana was awesome this year. So it doesn't make us any less of a team if we don't play, whatever they would be, like an LSU or something in non-conference. So I don't know. I think there's going to be some copycat of that, of being like, I'm sure there are some, not all, but some coaches that would be like, well, yeah, if I had Indiana's non-conference, we'd look a lot better. And obviously doesn't matter about the playoff if we win all of them. I don't know, man. I'm going to miss like these like sort of marquee matchups. I know the SEC, like you still have to have at least one Power 4 game on your schedule, on your non-conference schedule. So I would expect like a Boston College to get a lot of calls here in these next few years, something like that. All these ACC and Big 12 schools to get a ton of calls, but I don't know. I'm going to miss it just because, I mean, like you look back at OU, right? I mean, like there's like the Baker Mayfield flag plant game. Like you don't get that with all this stuff. So I don't know. I will miss him, but it's okay.
Alan, same question on that side of it. Is this just a symptom of the times, or is just a symptom of a more systematic disease in college football that is maybe starting to show itself with the scheduling and how it's moving forward?
I don't know. I just feel like 9 SEC games is really, really difficult. I tried to raise this point. Ari Wasserman was talking about this, and I largely agree with Ari about. I would rather just see the big time non-conference games, stay. I don't think that, I don't think that just because your conference schedule is getting harder, that's like, oh, okay, we need to cancel these games. I mean, I don't know, just go play them all and win them all. I don't know, but there were, I went back and counted the worst team per S&P Plus, the least efficient team in the SEC this year was Kentucky, and they ranked 67th overall. There were 7 teams in the Big Ten that ranked below that, right? So, I mean, ironically enough, Indiana, we just finished slagging off on their non-con schedule. Well, they also played 5 of the 7 worst teams. Those teams that were worse than Kentucky were on Indiana's schedule this year. I mean, the whole idea that the SEC has really gone anywhere is silly. I mean, it's still an incredibly deep conference, and when you're playing those kinds of games, that's a full docket. So I mean, I don't know. I don't really like where this is going. But I think it's more just a matter of, trying to do what's in your best interest competitively, I guess. I mean, I don't know. You're still going to need to win big games, down the road. So I don't know if how much of an advantage is really going to be gained here.
Yeah, my viewpoint is looking at it from Oklahoma fan. Is we all got really bored of playing these land grant Big 8 teams, right? I mean that's the whole point. Everyone's like, we're going to Kansas State again, going to Iowa State again. You get bored of playing these games, and I remember talking to an Alabama writer, welcoming Oklahoma and Texas. Like, finally, we can stop playing these shitty SEC teams. We get Oklahoma. It's like another cool game to play. But if you just keep playing the same teams over and over and over again, there is rivalry there, in which that's one of the reasons why I miss playing those Big 8 teams. Mm-hmm. But I could understand somebody saying, like, again, it's this, this team again. I could understand some of that side of it as well. And then coming from a wrestling fan, they used to every once in a while put together what's called a dream match, right? It's like, oh, wow, I never thought we'd see these two in the ring together or whatever like that. And they keep people apart, and then boom, they put them together and they sell it as like on WrestleMania or something. To where like these big non-con games, to me, are like that. They should be these dream matchups. Like, wow, Oklahoma, Ohio State, big time. That needs to happen for the health of the sport, or else you're just going to, if I own the broadcast rights, I'm probably pulling the ear a little bit of saying like, hey guys, what are you doing here? Like, I get you want to win more games, but like, I don't know if we're going to get a big number on Oklahoma playing, I don't know, Sacramento State. You know what I mean? Like, we would much so rather you guys keep this Michigan game. I think it's helpful for the sport, helpful for people to get involved in it and watch it. If you're talking about growing the sport on that side, I think it's easier to grow the sport by having big time games and good games than it is like the Big 12 trying to have a game in Mexico City or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's like, hey, play this big game. And I was just listening to the Solid Verbal today. It's a Big 12 writer. I cannot remember his thing. I actually follow him, his newsletter called Open for Sale or something like that. Talking about the biggest game for the Big 12 next year is BYU Notre Dame. He's like, it's not even a Big 12 game, but that is a national game that will be seen. It has a chance for something, for a Big 12 team to make a statement. And it's the only one, because all these other teams are canceling the Big 12 games, basically, unless you're Oklahoma State and everyone's like, let's walk them on down. Come on, let's go. Let's play this game on that side. So I do think there's something there. But then if I'm an AD of one of these lesser schools, man, I'm walking in the room, hot stuff, saying, who wants to play? How much? 5 million, 10 million? Let's go. I mean, you get a bidding war on that side of it. Would be kind of interesting to see on that. Then finally, the one I know every single Oklahoma fan is pointing to this and saying, why not me? Lord, I've seen what you've done for others. Why not me? But Trinidad Chambliss is granted an injunction. I believe the judge is an Ole Miss alum, or an old one was, or something like that. He is granted an injunction. That doesn't necessarily mean he's eligible fully. Is that correct, Alan? It just means NCAA can't currently enforce his ineligibility.
I'm assuming, I guess my guess is this is not the end of the legal process, but for right now, I believe he's okay to play next year, or he will be playing next year.
Which, again, if you're an Oklahoma fan, why is this happening? But we're seeing this happen more and more and more in a breakdown of the student athlete contract, I guess. I guess even using the word contract would get me in trouble from a legal perspective. But this framework of student athlete, the framework of you're playing while you're in school. We're seeing it on the college basketball side on an immense level. To me, Alabama's basketball program should have to forfeit their games. Like, you literally had an NBA player leave a couple of games before court said, what are you doing? And which is funny because a lot of people are blaming the NCAA for this, and it's not their fault. The literal court said, did this. Not the NCAA didn't say, come on down, come play. They said, no, you can't. The issue is that the NCAA, based on previous Supreme Court rulings in the 50s and 60s and 70s, those Supreme Courts had said we have to treat student athletes in NCAA with a special status because it technically can't work under real employment rules, which that justification or that like thought process does not exist. In the legal framework of today's society, it's everyone's making a shit ton of money off these kids. They need to make it. When these sports weren't making money, people were okay with it. But I mean, Matt, now this makes Oklahoma's schedule quite a bit harder, potentially having this level of quarterback play. But also, we're seeing this idea of what is a college athlete? Like that's getting harder and harder to define. What is a college athlete? I think there was a player saying he was asking to waive tuition fees because it offered too high of a burden for him to be able to play. We're getting to a point to where it's almost going to be separate. Like here's sports that are sponsored by this college, but they're no way affiliated with like taking courses or being in there. Is this getting too far? Is this getting too far in your mind of what people who wanted players to be compensated, fairly compensated? I'll say that. If you're not watching the YouTube, I've got the pin. I'm doing like the Obama, like fairly compensated. We're going to compensate them fairly on that side. Or is it just fully wild, wild west? We're waiting for something to happen on that side.
Yeah, I think, man, it's tough with, especially, I don't get the junior college, right? Now it's just, hey, that really doesn't count that much against you, right. At all. You can just play the Diego Pavia stuff, right? I don't get that. There's a lot that I don't get. I do think. I mean, we're heading to the Super League. Like when I cannot be convinced otherwise. Whether that's in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, like we're heading that way. I don't know. Like, will the 5-year rule? Will that even fix anything? It's like, hey, you get 5 years. We're not doing red shirts. You get this, but then you still have medical red shirts. You still have all this other stuff that people are gonna sue for because there's a lot of money on the table, now for these guys to make. The one that gets me is the Amari Bailey kid. It is just this basketball, but played at UCLA. He's played 10 professional basketball games. Literally in the NBA, he's played 10 NBA games, and he's trying to come back and play. He just took a visit to a Grand Canyon University, and I'm like, dude, like, what are we? One, how is that not embarrassing to you as a player? Like, how is that not embarrassing? And then two, like, how are we even entertaining this idea that this guy has stepped on a court? Like with Victor Wembanyama or with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Jokic, and then he's like, "Oh, okay, he's gonna go play mid-major basketball in college." Like, I don't know, man. It's all. I mean, the toothpaste is out of the tube, and it has been for a long time. I don't know how you try to fit it back in there. I don't know if there is a way to. So, the football one is just on a whole. I want to say a whole nother level. Not really, because there's not NFL players trying to come back and play college football yet. But I don't know, man. It feels like we wake up to a new reason why we're getting an extra year of eligibility. So,
yeah, it seems strange on that side. I mean, Alan, you're over there on Capitol Hill. You're writing some of this legislation. I'm assuming. No. Joking. You do have. You're someone. Don't make this weird. You're someone who I look for to have like a common sense, or at least someone to think about this stuff. And I would go back and I'd read the articles and I'd read the stuff. Obviously, we do now as a fan, thinking, "Hey, Alan's got a good head about this. He's thinking about it clearly. in a way that's not just let them play. It's like we have to figure something out on this. What are your thoughts about this degradation of the student athlete classification to where we are now, where you've got these courts getting involved, these injunctions getting involved? I mean, they are claiming the NCAA acted in bad faith by not classifying him with a medical red shirt. Like Ferris State kept saying he's got one. TV announcers were like, yeah, he took a medical back then. And NCAA's like, no, he didn't. Like, why is that even a question? Why is there ambiguity on does he have a red shirt or not? That seems to be, everything seems to be broken down to, did he have a medical red shirt or did he not? Did he not classify it? On that side of it? Or are they trying to, it seems to be they're trying to retroactively force the NCAA into recognizing that season could have been a medical red shirt season based on a bunch of different factors. But I mean, what are your thoughts on where we are, just even the classification of a student athlete?
Yeah, I mean, look, college football is just, it's an absurdity. It's not what it was supposed to be, if that makes sense. College football is not supposed to be a major money-making endeavor. It's supposed to be, tied to schools. And so schools have used that, for so long to turn it into a major money-making endeavor, on the sly. And so like with college football, you are always going to be kind of shoehorning it into this weird, clearly it's a form of work, it's a form of labor, but it's really not supposed to be. So you're just, it's never going to like really work out. So what you're seeing right now with stuff like, eligibility limits is, this tension between, what should be legal and, the ability to actually have a functioning product, within the long term, what college football's been, if that makes sense. It's a really, really weird place to be in. It's the kind of thing that, as much as people love college football, it does make me think that, it might have a shelf life as a product. And, part of it just being like, we're essentially now treating what we're supposed to be students as really, professionals, but that's not what the game's built around. It's just such a weird space to be in, but I don't think in the long run it's going to be good for the sport.
Yeah, obviously, I won't say obviously, but it does seem like we're in the Silicon Valley growth mindset of college football.
Right.
Where it's just grow, and you end up coring out the part that kept the sport together or made the sport special in the first place, when it's just grow new audience. And I guess if you're from that perspective, you want to have these players on campus as long as possible because it creates more of a buy-in or a familiarity with audiences or something like that. So I mean, more of that chaos. But you're right. There is a middle class of agents, friends, on that side who are making a lot of money off of a lot of these players. And I think what will probably happen is in 5-ish years or so, we're going to start reading and hearing about some of these horror stories of this player signed a $10 million NIL deal and now he's got no money or something like that we already hear about on the NFL level and professional side of it, because there are no regulations on what an agent is or isn't so far in college football, and stuff like that, to where a lot of these players are being potentially misled, manipulated, and used to the benefit of others, which is very, very difficult. It's one of the reasons why, again, like I mentioned earlier, the NCAA was usually treated within like a special influence or special use case for previous Supreme Court rulings, because I won't say they understood, but it was kind of like this thing of they were treating it as if it were other countries' Olympic style sports ministries and stuff like that, saying like, hey, this is kind of like this process which allows us to develop athletes, so we have to do it this way. Now that's become privatized and commercialized, we end up losing that ability to support that moving forward. Same thing's happening right now with a little bit of a field. I apologize, a little bit of a rant. Same thing happening right now with like Winter Olympics and winter sports for the United States. Where, just how much it costs for someone to ski and do that is just getting astronomical. When Norway, it's like $60 for the season. There you go. Ski all you want, figure it out, because they understand like they have an importance on it. So anyway, a bit of a rant there on that side of it. Anything else we want to talk about? We feel pretty good. That's everything I had written down.
Yeah, no, we hit everything.
Feel good.
Right, we hit everything. You heard it, guys. You hit everything. Please leave us a like and review over on Spotify or on Apple. That would be fantastic for us. Remember, check out our website on keyholepod.com. Keyholesports.com? I can't even remember the pod.
Keyholepod.com.
My brain is shutting down. Keyholepod.com. Or check us out on patreon.com/throughthekeyhole. I've heard it's a very good website. Go check it out. And thank you so much for Kaizen Performance and as well as the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. We'll sign off as we always do. For myself, for all the great listeners, for the Patreon members, for Alan, for Matt, and for Brady. Boomer.
Soda.